All right, Blaze asked about question number 20. It says, suppose an object is dropped from a height of h sub 0, okay, above the ground. Then its height after t seconds is given by h equals with negative 16 t squared plus h sub 0. So the idea is that I'm just dropping it, right? There's no propellant, so there's other than gravity, so there's no initial velocity. So there's no v sub 0 here, okay? Times t. So this is just an a term and a c term here, essentially for a quadratic. It says use the information to solve the problem. It says a ball is dropped from top of a building that's 93 feet tall. Round your answers to 3 decimal places. So they want to know how long will it take the ball to fall half the distance to the ground. Okay? So if I'm going to create a equation for this, okay, and they said h is equal to negative 16 t squared plus h sub 0, right? Okay. Now, h equals negative 16 t squared, and they say your initial height is 93 feet. So that's the height that we're going to drop from. Now, there's still 2 variables in there. The h, I can replace that because they give me enough information. How long will it take to fall half the distance to the ground? Well, half the distance to the ground there would be, what? 93 divided by 2, okay? And I don't know that there's a benefit. You write it as 41.5 if you want to, 41.5. But I'm going to write, like Blaze said, 93 over 2, just to see if the algebra works out a little bit nicer. But, well, they tell us to round to 3 decimal places. So here's the thing. If I pay attention to my directions a lot of times, or the way that I'm going to type my answers in, they're saying round it. So is the AC method or is the product sum technique probably going to work here? No, because those things give integer answers, right? Okay, so probably going to have to use quadratic formula. So if you want to write it as 41.5 and let that be your amount that's used in your quadratic formula, that's fine. That's what I'm going to do. It's going to make things a little bit quicker here. So let's subtract that from both sides. So I get 0 equals negative 16 t squared plus then 41.5, right? All right? Now we're going to use quadratic formula. I'm going to say the opposite of b, which b doesn't exist, right? Okay. Actually, does it? Let's do this. Because there's no b term, and these are things, guys, I know I started talking about quadratic formula, and then I'm going to backtrack because I'm thinking ahead. Okay, and that's something you always want to kind of do. If I use quadratic formula, I think I'm wasting time. Because what is this set up for if it doesn't have a b term? Square root method. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go. I'll have 16 t squared is equal to 41.5, right? Divide both sides by 16, I get t squared is equal to 41.5 over 16. Then square root both sides. We'll grab our calculator here. So we had the square root of 41.5 over 16. I get 1.6105, so 1.611. Be that right? 41. $93 over 2. I'm an idiot. It's not 41.5. That's 83. So, backtrack. So if that's, so everybody get that? So this should be what, 46.5? Yeah, 46.5. Where were you on that one, Blaze? See if you guys are on your toes. Think about coal. So this is an easy fix. Just go through and change all those 1s to 6s. So then that to a 6. And I get 1.705. 1.705. Which is indeed my answer. Now, the next thing, how long will it take to fall to the ground? Okay. I want to do this with the logic of what the phrase "the ground" means to us in terms of a height. What is the ground in terms of a height? 0. Okay. So I'm going to start with this purple equation here. Okay. And I'm going to rewrite it as 0 equals, let me find a different color here. A lot of these colors, they look good on my screen, but then they, up there on the projector, they look real faded. So 0 equals now negative 16 t squared plus 93, right? I should then be able to go through the same algebra. 16t squared equals 93. T squared is equal to 93 over 16. T then is plus or minus root 93 over 16. Okay. Now, square root 93 over 16. 2.41, and now up to the next decimal place. The 3 decimal places would be 411. I get this wrong, okay? Now, so look at your 2 answers. They are, so you said multiply by a half, didn't you? At the beginning of class, you didn't say that? Okay. Because if you look at them, shouldn't multiply by 2. Get the second one. Okay, so any other questions? Any other? Yes, Sarah.
I did the word, and then I put it in, and it was wrong. And then I watched the video, and they had the same exact thing that I had.
Okay.
And it still said I was wrong. So I don't know what it was.
Let's see what 14 is. So let's do this one. And I think your issue probably, and I can go back in and look at yours individually and let you know. But because I was working with, I think it was Caitlin this morning, with trying to type that in and to get the subscripts and the power of 2 on those velocities, that might be kind of a mess. Okay. This here?
Yeah. Are you going to teach us how to type that in?
Yeah, we can, let's write the answer down, and then we'll see if we can type it in and see if we can type it in right. So let's go ahead and do this. We'll paste it in here. All right, so it says solve the equation for the indicated variable t. Here's where I think a lot of people have been going kind of awry with this one. And there's one where we're talking about the surface area of a cylinder as well. It's got like 2 pi r h, 2 pi r squared in it. H up there is a variable. A lot of people are just trying to focus on the right-hand side and deal with just the right-hand side. And obviously you're going to mess that question up doing that. H is an unknown, okay? Just like T is, and just like V sub naught is, and just like the other T is, okay? Now G, if we're on Earth, that's a known constant, okay? But depending on, maybe we're on a different planet, whatever, maybe it's different, okay? But that's a known value, okay? But unknown, both unknown. and we're going to solve for t. And h is unknown as well. So if I have a quadratic equation, I'm trying to solve it for t, then that needs to be what number there? 0. So 0 is equal to, I'm going to write 1/2 g. Now I'm going to put that 1/2 g in parentheses because that's my coefficient. And I've got t squared plus now v sub naught. That's my coefficient. That's my b term. And then it'd be minus h. So there's a, there's b, there's c. Now if I go with quadratic formula, we always solve for the quadratic variable. So the quadratic variable is t. It's going to be t is equal to, we're going to go opposite of b, so v sub naught, plus or minus b squared, so it'd be v sub naught squared. And that might be the trick in getting the answer typed in. So we'll mess around with that in a moment. B squared minus then 4a, which a is 1/2 gravity, times c, which is negative h, all over 2 times a, which again a is 1/2 g. Just writing it a little bit more condensed, v sub naught plus or minus. This becomes positive, right? So we got v sub naught squared plus 2gh. And that's all going to be over just g. So we'll see if we can type that thing in. Say again. For the V? Yes. So when I click, where's that?
So should we type it in like you had it or like how they have it up there?
Well, like the way I had it, we look at mine. They just moved the V sub naught to the back using the commutative property. And they use the commutative property here as well and flip-flop those. So they're the same. I don't like the way they do it. And I had somebody in the last class doing this for the one that had an S in it. It was like 9, I think number 7 or something like that. And they're like, I did everything you did in class. I'm doing it right. I know I did it right. But they extended that radical to include whatever that term was for their question. Okay? That's why I like to put it out front. I think it's just safer to do it that way. Now, I might have to go to the student view to actually get that tab to show up that shows me the subscripts.
Why? I'm just kidding. You didn't know. But I told the whole team. Everyone's like, "Where's Lucas?" I was like, "Oh, I heard you have one." What? Oh yeah. Hey, so another kind of crack, not crack. No fun. Like strictly. Is it serious? Like what you had? Remember that one that we talked about? I guess that. Oh, yeah.
All right, so if I go, we have the opposite of V. Now I got to find the subscript. So I'm going to go to functions. I believe that's where we're going to go. We're going to go with that, and we got to type in 0. Okay?
Wait, why is your 0 there?
Okay. And then we're going to go plus square root. And what do we have? V sub 0 again, squared. So I'm going to go that one. No. V squared sub 0. I think that's the right one. Because this is showing, I believe this is showing whatever your object, yeah. See, I say when I put over my cursor, it says sub. So sub stands for superscript, and sub stands for subscript. Okay, so that's the one that's going to be allowing me to put both those in. I think you could probably do this. You could probably go V, if you just want to do subscript 0, and then square that. That's the same thing. Does that make sense? And it should accept that. Okay, so if you do that and then go so you're saying shift. Okay. Yeah. So if you do the subscript one, put the 0 in, and then hit shift caret to put your superscript in, put your exponent in, it will do that correct syntax for you. And then we had what, plus 2, we got 2GH. Yeah, because if I don't put it all in parentheses, it won't extend the radical for me. Now I need to get to the denominator. And what do we have there? Just G? All right, so I don't want to type all that in again, right? 'Cause I got to do both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it all, hit Control C. Then I'm going to put my comma in, hit Control V, and it pastes it all in there for me, right? You hit Control Z then. So I did undo. All right, so then obviously I need to go back and change that to a minus. And then we should be able to see what we've got.
Wait, can you pull that back up again? Because,
No, you gotta learn how to do it. So what'd you have? Sarah, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
On number 6, can I ask why the answer is not resolution? Because I had I had 2 plus or minus radical 3 or something like that.
We can do that. Give me a second and I'll ask you for your numbers.
what?
Hold on a second. What was your set of value, or what was your equation, Cameron? Minus 2? You there, boys?
Nate, don't help you.
Thank you, Nate.
Okay, so how do I count this? Control C.
All right, so if we're going to do this one, then we've got to distribute the 4 through, right? So we get W squared equals 4W minus 8. And then W squared minus 4W plus 8, will give me 0, right? Now we're looking at 2 numbers that multiply together, give me 8, give me negative 4. They both have to be negative, right? And there are none. So you turn to the quadratic formula, right? So we go W is equal to the opposite of B plus or minus B squared minus 4a would be 1, c, which would be 8 all over 2, right? And then, so that's going to give me 4 plus or minus. Now, in here, I get 16 minus 32. So it'd be a negative 16 there over 2. And that's going to be 4 plus or minus then 4i over 2. So the negative 16 here. If you got whole numbers, you probably had a positive, correct with positive 16.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, all right.
Can we do 19 at all?
Did we do 19? Or can we? You want to do 19?
You're welcome.
Okay. Yes.
I think I typed it.
One second. All right, so number 19 is a question, guys, that I think it looks nasty, it looks challenging, but I think it's also at the same time something that maybe we kind of overthink.
I did. I thought I did there.
It looks right. They probably put some
Is it, what question is it?
Is that the answer right there?
This is for 14.
Yeah.
Next one is 0, no. Oh.
I did use 2.
You can put it in.
No, it depends.
Am I too old to go trick or treating? No. No.
Oh.
We still have 2 more years.
0.
Alright. Yeah. Alright. I don't need help with
Oh,
19.
I think it's right.
Damn, right.
How did I only?
I'll give you points for it.
All right.
Okay, so when we look at this, thinking of like our techniques for solving this thing, the best thing probably is to use a quadratic formula. Okay, where this is obviously your A term, that's your B term, and that thing's your C term. Because remember what parentheses do. Parentheses are a grouping symbol that says whatever is inside these parentheses, we're going to consider one object. Does that make sense? Okay. So because those groups of parentheses are in front of our variable terms, those are A, B, and C. Now, the only thing here is pay attention to your B, the fact that it is the opposite of 2A plus 1, right? Okay. So when I solve for X, okay, I'm going to go the opposite of B. Okay, so I'm just going to write it this way. This is the opposite, and B is in that thing. Okay. Which you can do this several different ways. If you distribute that, you get negative 2A minus 1, right? And then you're going to distribute that negative, and you're going to get 2A plus 1, right? Okay? Or you can think just those two things undo each other. And then we'll go plus or minus. Now, in this case, I don't really care that B is negative. I'm going to square it, right? So I'm just going to write 2A plus 1 squared. Minus then 4A, and then C is A plus 1. All over then 2A, which our A is just A, right? Okay, so that's ugly, but let's go through and simplify. We got 2A plus 1 out front, what that turns into, plus or minus. Okay, now 2A plus 1 squared. Let's do this work. We'll do it down here to the side. If I go 2A plus 1 and I square that thing right there, that's going to give me 4A squared plus 4A plus 1, right? Okay. Now looking at this is going to be minus, that thing right there, minus 4a squared, right? Minus 4a. What's that turn into? What's all this stuff under the radical, the radicand? Yeah, that wipes away with that wipes away with that, and you're left with just 1 underneath there. All over then, 2a, right? We'll continue to simplify. What's the square root of 1? 1. So I have 2a plus 1, plus or minus 1, all over 2a. Well, then that turns into 2a plus 1 minus 1 over 2a, and it turns into 2a plus 1 over 2a. Well, here those cancel out, right? And it leaves me 2a over 2a, which is just 1. Here, I'm left with 2a plus 2 over 2, which turns into, 2a. Do they all have a 2 in them? Yeah. Okay, so cancel, leaves me a plus 1 over a. Which the benefit of a question like that is if what we're basically saying is in that original problem, our coefficients are variable coefficients, meaning they can change based on what a is, right? And for some reason they're of that structure, meaning that if a is 4, I should be able to go down to those 2 solutions that I had and find that my answers are 1, and then we have a. So we have 5 over 5. Does that make sense? Or sorry, 5 over 4. Okay. For the second one, if a was 7, okay, then that quadratic that is generated when a is 7 would have solutions of 1 and 8 over 7. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay. So that's in the event that for maybe some reason our coefficients were changing. Okay, they're variable coefficients. So initially, guys, and that's what you're going to find out a lot of times, initially that looks like a mess. But they're designed a lot of times to do real convenient canceling like that one did with the radicand, leaving me just that 1. Scroll down. Yes.
That's what I thought.
Which one?
Nothing. I just gotta look back in the notes for it. But hey, did you guys do 15? No, I didn't do 15.
15?
Yeah. Everyone votes 15. I only have 15 votes. So I'm straight chilling.
Oh, so I'm doing your homework.
No. They don't call me Tim for nothing.
That's because they don't call you that.
This fat, I don't know.
The area is equal to 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi RH, right? Do you know what that is? It is. It's area of cylinder. Surface area of cylinder.
Wait, what's the difference between a sphere and a cylinder?
You need to remember. You need to remember that everything that you say is being recorded.
No, I forgot that one.
Okay, so your comments mathematically and some of them that you're making non-mathematically are on video. All right. So again, this is just like question number 7 that gave you like some quadratic with the t term was like 9s or something like that. It is just like the one where we just did with 1/2 g t squared plus h sub 0 or equals h. Okay, the v sub naught, that question. I don't remember what number that was. 14 maybe.
Yeah.
So this one is very similar in the fact that you've got a quadratic equation because there's an r squared, right? Now this thing here, remember, that's a variable term, correct? So we need to move that to the other side. So 0 is equal to 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi RH minus A. Yes, because you've got multiplication here, right? So, and that was going to be my next step. So I want to make sure that we recognize that the R is the variable term that we're solving for, right? So we're going to know, obviously we know what 2 pi is, but the 2 pi h, we'll know what h is. Okay, so that's my coefficient, right? 2 pi h. And then my A is going to be that constant. Okay, so the reason I put them in parentheses that way is because now that's my A term, that's my B term, and that's my C term, right? So then R will equal the opposite of B. Plus or minus B squared, which B squared is going to be, what, 4 pi squared H squared? But remember, when we square a product, we square every single factor. It's going to be minus 4 A C. And we'll put that thing all over 2A, which ends up being 4 pi. So I'm just going to rewrite this as negative 2 pi h plus or minus 4 pi squared h squared. Turns into minus 8 pi times A. All over then 4 pi. And that's the way I'm going to type that in, guys. And it should accept it. Now, if you were to type that in, it looks, and type it in wrong, and it gives you feedback, it looks entirely different than that. They do some simplification with what's inside the Radican. I'm not going to do that, and it shouldn't matter in terms of answering that question.
I thought A was negative.
Oh, yep, you're right. My fault. So A is, I put that bracket around that, but I didn't write it up here. So A is negative, so I'm just going to change that to a plus, right? I'm sorry. Thank you for catching that. I gotta get myself back in the mode of detail, paying attention to detail. I miss those things early on. Again, that's a pain in the butt to type in, right? So once you type it in once, select it, Control C, don't delete it, and then hit comma, Control V, and it'll paste it back in.
I think we use a different math site.
Huh?
I don't think it's a math website.
You'll get used to it.
I guess
Oh, because it's what you're used to. It's like anything that you become accustomed to. Once it's gone and you try something different, you're not going to like that different thing for a while. It gets better. Once you get accustomed to it, and that's the thing, you guys, I mean, a lot of you are using the calc pad over there on the right-hand side, which is fine, okay? But if I want a fraction, all I got to do on my keyboard is hit the division, which is question mark, right? If I want, you know what, if I want pi, I should be able to just type in pi, okay? If I want square root, I just type in sqrt, okay? And you should be able to, now I'm not saying everybody's going to remember these, but if I think I'm logged out of it. Oh, no, okay, good. So if I just click on like this, look at square root. So when I hover over the top of those things, it tells me what the kind of the hotkeys are for that. Okay, so if I just type in sqrt, it's going to use that symbol. If I want a factorial here, I just type in factorial with a capital F, and it will give me a factorial. Now that would be kind of stupid, right? You use the exclamation point, so shift 1. But if I want minus, I can just type in the word minus, not G minus. Just type in the word minus, Well, that's dumb. I think it might be because I've already submitted my answer. But those should be the things you can type in to generate those characters. Does that make sense? Ones that you will use the most are square root, the fraction, that type of stuff, subscript, superscripts, which again, superscript you probably want to hit shift caret, which is shift 6. I'm not sure if there's a quicker hotkey for subscripts, but and those things, those will allow you to be a little bit more efficient and start to maybe appreciate WebAssign a little bit more than you do right now. Other ones on there. We got a couple minutes here yet. We want to see anything else, or if you want to see anything from the second assignment, that's 5 questions in it.
Are they both due tomorrow?
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to push them back. I want them both due tomorrow, but I'm going to give you till midnight tomorrow.
Okay.
And that's what I'm going to do for now on. All your assignments are going to be due, like if the assignment's due on Friday, it's going to be due at midnight on Friday. I think that'll give us one more day in class to ask questions if we need to, okay? And especially if I give an assignment that's due the next day, you at least then have that next day to come in and ask questions about it before it's due on that day. Now I like doing that because it gets you, if you take anybody else take any other online classes, okay, are your assignments due usually in the evening, midnight usually on Sundays? If I go back through all of my, I've taken more, this is kind of crazy, I think, but I've taken more online classes than I have traditional college in-seat classes with my degrees. And if I go through all the assignments that were due through those online courses, they're all, I would say 95% of them were due on a Sunday evening at 11:59 p.m. And Dayton does 11:55 p.m. for some reason. But getting accustomed to that now might be a good thing for it. Okay, it's a little bit different. You might have to prioritize a little bit different. Okay, you might have to schedule. You might think you get more time, but hopefully you do. But you got to schedule the way you do things a little bit differently now. Any others you guys want to talk about over there? And I'll give more. I sent last night's email. I'll just tell you guys. I'll put more submissions on there too. So I'll put a couple more on there so you guys can go back and adjust things for run out. Number 10?
No, I got 13 wrong too. So, it's 1 to 5. It's like 5, yeah. That's the only one I got right.
We can do that one.
Oh.
Maybe we'll do that one tomorrow. All right, so small appliance.
I hate when I leave your I feel like
it's weird. You hate when you leave. I hate when you show up. I'm kidding.
I'm gonna be a bigger person. You're always saying your kid.
I'm kidding. Hate's not a big enough word. Huh?
You're always saying your kid is a bigger person.
No,
That's why you're shaking your.
I'm always saying I'm kidding because hate's not a strong enough word.
That's why you're shaking your head.
All right, so, and I don't know a better way of doing this, guys, because when I cut and paste or when I view the question in front of you in WebAssign, like it's just like I zoom in, it cuts off half the question. When I cut and paste it and put it in PowerPoint, it cuts off half the question. OneNote is a little bit different in the fact that it allows me to kind of scroll over with what I've cut and pasted. So that's kind of what we're going to have to do. I think the most convenient way of doing it, I guess. But it says a small appliance manufacturer finds that the profit P in dollars generated by producing X microwave ovens per week is given by the formula P equals 1/10 X times 300 minus X, provided that 0 is less than or equal to X less than or equal to 200. Okay? So provided that he is making between 0 and 200 microwaves a week. So how many ovens must be manufactured in a week to generate a profit of $18.90? Okay? So, guys, this is something that really happens in manufacturing. Okay? And I can show you maybe some examples later on in the next couple of days of how we actually generate these things. Okay? Because I always thought when I was in your seat, well, yeah, this is kind of neat. I can see this guy has to make 50 appliances or whatever. But where did that equation come from? And it's an actual pretty easy process of generating that equation if I'm a manufacturer or a store owner or whatever. Okay, so generating quadratics is, as long as I have previous data, is not a difficult task. You guys have done lines of best fit, right? It's the same thing. It's called a quadratic regression, which is really easy to generate if I have 3 data points. So here we go. Says we want to make $18.90 in profit, right? So that number there needs to be $18.90. Is equal to then 1/10 x 300 minus x. Now you can FOIL this through. You can not FOIL, distribute that 1/10 through. But I'm going to get rid of it first. Okay, I'm going to multiply both sides by 10. That's okay to do, right? Yeah. So when I multiply both sides by 10, it gives me x 300 minus x, right? Now, this is a situation where I want to get this to be 0. This is already factored, right? If this was 0, this would be an awesome question. We'd be done. But we can't just leave this alone. What we actually have to do, because factoring this thing is going to incorporate moving that over, making that 0, so I've got to distribute this out. Sometimes you might think, well, it's already factored, I'm going to distribute so that I can factor again. And you think, well, I'm undoing what I've already done. And you're really not, because you're going to kind of merge some values eventually. So this is going to turn into 300x minus x squared minus 18,900. So now I'm going to rewrite this as x squared minus 300x plus 18,900. Now what I did there is I just used the commutative property, and at the same time I multiplied everything by -1. Is that okay? And now we've got to factor that. Okay, so I don't know maybe what the best approach is here to find 2 numbers that multiply together, give me that, and add to give me that. But as you go through that process, you're going to find out that 90 will work. Okay, and then what's the other one? Got to be 210. Okay. Questions on that? Does that make sense? Yeah.
I did mine a different way because my evil brain decided to not multiply the 1890 by 10.
Okay.
So I just went through and did the quadratic formula where the a term was 1/10.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
That'll work.
I just guessed. Now I know how to
Now the guess and check method doesn't always work. You're going to be
It was pretty, I did it pretty quick.
okay.
I know how to do it now.
So now here's the thing: I get x equals 90, and I get x equals 210, right?
Yeah.
What does x have to be between, though?
It's 90.
So that's why I only get one answer there. Is that if I'm going to make 9 to maximize my profit, even though I have the potential and I have the resources to maybe make 200 toasters or whatever we're making here, ovens. If I've got the resources and the ability to do that, I'm not selling enough to make a profit. Does that make sense? So what's going on there is if I make 200, I'm going to have 110 toasters or ovens sitting somewhere in a warehouse that I have to pay the mortgage on for that warehouse. I have to have resources making those ovens, people making those ovens, that kind of stuff. So my profit equation or function here says that 90 will maximize my profit, and that's or at least give me 1890 is what I want. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So we can do keep working on that, guys. We can go over those more questions tomorrow, but then I want to eventually tomorrow, hopefully at some point, move on to some other types of equations that we can solve. Oh. No.
You guys remember brain pop? Yeah.